Buddy here from Backroad Buddies of Red Tail Lodge, and the video we want to share with you today is about cooking on the road. Now, I normally cook most of the evening meals. This is whether we're at home or on the road. And I do that so, for one, it makes our traveling that much more affordable because eating out all the time gets rather expensive. And it allows us to have more control over our nutrition that we have through our meals. So this video is about showing you how cooking on the road differs from cooking at home, at least for us. Now for you it may be different because your situation may be different, but I'll explain how it looks and how it differs from cooking at home to cooking on the road for us. So let's start by how do we cook at home. So at home, I generally only cook the evening meals. So breakfast and lunch, everybody's on their own, so it usually doesn't involve much cooking. It's usually assembling, maybe frying an egg or something. And so I do all the evening meals. I plan them out a week at a time. So I only have to go to the grocery store once a week. Well, in theory. At home it's easy because if you're missing something or you want something, you can quickly run down to the store. Although we've been trying to even limit that at home during COVID here and just go to the grocery store once a week, which then you really realize how often you make those quick little trips in between. And so we like to cook a lot of different cuisines, a lot of variety. I mainly cook from scratch. I mean, not everything, but I prefer that over processed foods. And again, that's for controlling costs and controlling nutrition. And it's actually more fun, I think. It seems more rewarding when you feel like you really made it instead of just reheated somebody else's creation. So, I mean, the other things we have at home, which makes it so much more convenient, is all the tools we have available. So at home we have this huge refrigerator and freezer. We have a microwave, we have an oven, we have a 5-burner gas cooktop, we have a large Instant Pot, a crock pot, a food processor. Left Buddy has his French press to make coffee. And I'm trying to think what else we have. We have a grill outside. So we have a lot of tools available with us at home. Now, what is that? What kind of tools do we have on the road? Well, first off, we have a much smaller refrigerator. This is the Dometic 28-liter. It's a top-loading fridge. This is what we had in our van for seasons 1 and 2. Now we're actually going to swap that out season 3 and put in a 65-liter, so we're going to more than double our fridge capacity. And that was probably the biggest limiting factor on cooking on the road, was how much refrigerator space we had. And plus we're switching to a front, more of a conventional fridge, so it opens from the front with a door, and it's much easier to get things in and out. But we'll have another video on that later. So, and we do not have a freezer, although you can set this up to be a freezer, but you either have a fridge or a freezer. So we used it as a fridge all the time. And then the other things, let me get this out of the way. So we do travel with a small Instant Pot, and I did buy a little glass lid for it and a little steamer basket. So the Instant Pot is great for making sauces, making soups, steaming vegetables in the little steamer basket. I like actually steaming eggs in here instead of boiling them because they're much easier to peel. We'll do things that we might typically do in an oven, which is potatoes and sweet potatoes. Using the pressure cooker, I can cook those pretty well in here. That works out nice. And we can also use this to reheat things. So we can put it on the saute setting instead of the pressure cook, and we can reheat leftovers. Although we try not to do leftovers because our fridge space is so small, so we generally try to just cook what we're going to eat that meal. If we do have leftovers and we can get it in the fridge, hopefully, we'll generally eat that for lunch or dinner the following day, so it won't sit in there for a long period of time because we got to clear out that space. And then the other thing so normally we'll cook this, use this inside the van, not outside, although we have extension cords because we have to hook it into electric. We'll even run this off the batteries when we don't have electrical hookup. And we do have to watch our battery usage when we do that because it does take quite a bit of power. The other thing we use to cook with is this single burner butane stove. And we really like this. We used to have, when we tent camped, we used to have a Coleman 2-burner, but hooking up the propane bottle and getting it out and setting it all up was a little more involved than this one. This one I like, it's really easy. You basically pull it out of the case, pop off this top, pop that in there, lock it in place, and boom, you're ready to turn it on and cook. You can also use the case as a wind block if it's windy out. And that comes to the other thing. We use this one outside. So we'll either cook this on a picnic table, or we also have a little camping table that we'll set it on and cook out there. Now this also gets Left Buddy involved in cooking more than he does at home. I don't know how I went wrong there. We used to alternate a long time ago when the kids were little. One of us would cook in one week and the other of us would cook the other week. And then I think it was we started this community supported agriculture, CSA, where you get a box of produce every week from whatever was harvested that week off the farms. And that was when he stopped cooking. He's like, that's too hard. But I actually found that much more rewarding because you never knew what you were going to get. You were forced into trying new things. You'd have ingredients you never cooked with before. And I found it to be much more creative, and that's where I really developed being a much more creative cook and trying out things, combining different things and learning new things. So that probably really helped my cooking ability, but it also meant that I took over most of the cooking. But on the road, since we use this outside and the Instant Pot inside, generally I'll be inside with the Instant Pot and chopping things up or whatever, and I'll send Left Buddy out with the butane stove, so he'll cook the rice or cook the pasta. He'll be cooking broths or whatever in the skillet. So I get him much more involved in the cooking, which in my mind is a plus. But yes, that also means that sometimes we're using both the Instant Pot and the butane stove at the same time for the same meal. So we'll cook the pasta in a pot on the butane stove, and I'll make the sauce for the pasta in the Instant Pot on the saute setting inside. So that really works out really well. We have to coordinate a little bit with weather, because if it's bad weather outside, you don't want to haul the butane stove out in the rain, pouring down rain, and have to cook. So having the alternative Instant Pot inside where we could make something all inside, probably could get by with using the butane stove inside. You just got to really make sure you have good ventilation so you don't asphyxiate yourself. And then with the butane stove, we mainly use this nested camping pot set that we got, I don't know, probably 25 years ago. So I don't even know if they make it anymore, but it's basically 3 pots, 3 different sizes. It's got a little handle that you can hook into the side of each one of them to use as a handle. And then each of the pots has, it's either a lid for the pot, or you can use it flipped over the other way as a skillet right on top of the stove. And we use, I have to admit, I don't normally use the smallest one, but we use the other two, both as skillets and as saucepans. They work out really well. Probably one of our favorite things to do is actually a tortilla pizza, where we'll saute up some peppers and onions. Then we'll take a flour tortilla, put a little oil in the bottom of the pan, put the flour tortilla down, put a little bit of tomato sauce with like garlic, oregano, basil, put some shredded mozzarella cheese, put those sauteed peppers and onions, and then pepperonis. So basically I have a little pizza. And then we put the big pot on top as a lid to help hold that heat in there. Turn it on low, let that tortilla heat up, let the cheese melt, the tortilla gets a little brown and crispy on the bottom, and you've got yourself wonderful pizza. So those are the pots we use. And then the only other form of cooking that we have is this small electric tea kettle. So this is great for boiling water. So if you have something that all you have to do is add boiling water to, such as oatmeal, quick oats in the morning, we'll use this. We'll use this for hot chocolate, coffee. That kind of brings up another differences. At home, I don't drink coffee, but Left Buddy does. And at home, he normally uses fresh ground coffee beans in a French press, and that's how he has his coffee at home. However, on the road, we tried for a while this, I don't know, this pour over or drip, coffee dripper. And I think we have it on our gear page. And that works out fine, but Left Buddy isn't much of a breakfast or a morning person, so he didn't like the hassle of dealing with cleaning that up, getting it out, filters, and then you got to deal with the coffee grounds. So on the road, he actually drinks instant coffee. So he can just boil some water in the electric tea kettle, and I can use half of it for hot chocolate in the morning. He can use the other half for his coffee. And there's very little to clean up after breakfast. That kind of brings up another thing of on the road is at home we have this huge kitchen sink and a dishwasher. In our van we've got a little tiny sink, and then we have a little plastic bin that we put the rinse water in. And so that's all we have to do dishes. So that's another reason not to cook breakfast and lunch, is we don't really like to do dishes 3 times a day. So we only mainly do dishes once a day. So at breakfast, all we normally have is like a bowl or two and a coffee cup or something. Those we can quickly rinse out in the sink in the morning, and that's not, I really wouldn't count that as washing dishes, although it is. And then at lunch, we normally have kind of a picnic lunch, whether it's sandwiches or whatever, and we'll just wipe off our plates or bowls with the paper towel that we used as a napkin, and we'll store those dishes away until after dinner, and we'll wash them all at the same time. So that's kind of how we get around the no dishwasher. And again, I get Left Buddy drying the dishes while I'm washing, so another plus. The other thing is, at home I have a food processor, which I use actually quite a bit, and on the road I don't. I get by with just using this immersion blender. So this is great for pureeing up soups or sauces or salsas. I also make gazpacho soup with it. So in a way I use this instead of a food processor. If I want to do something that's more grating, which I also might do in a food processor, so you want to make hash browns, which we'll sometimes have for dinner, not breakfast, I'll just use a box grater and grate it by hand. So carrots, potatoes, anything you want to grate, just do it the old-fashioned way. And speaking of old-fashioned, another thing we use on our stove is we don't have a microwave. So I already talked about reheating. Now we can either reheat on the butane stove or we can reheat in the Instant Pot. But what's another thing a lot of people use microwaves for? Popcorn. So we don't eat a lot of popcorn, but when we do, we basically do it the old-fashioned way in a pot. So you put a couple tablespoons of oil on the bottom, you put your loose popcorn kernels in there, put your lid on, and then you just have to be there. You can't walk away like you can with the microwave. So you have to sit there, and when it starts popping, you gotta shake it around so you don't get it burned on the bottom, and you gotta listen and kind of smell and know when to dump that out. So it takes a little bit more skill, but very doable, and you'll kind of feel a little proud of yourself. You can make popcorn without buying just a little bag of popcorn. So the biggest thing we probably miss about not having a freezer on the road is ice and ice cream. Now, the ice cream isn't that big of a deal because it gives us an excuse to go find those little ice cream shops in little towns while we travel. So we don't mind that too much, other than it's more expensive that way than buying, a big half-gallon at home. But the biggest thing that bothered us during season 2 was the lack of cold drinks. During season 1, we actually stopped a lot at gas stations or convenience stores or fast food chains and got, ice drinks. Usually I drink iced tea, fresh brewed iced tea. And with having the small fridge that we have and no ice, iced tea was not an option. So I actually ended up drinking a lot of Coke, which probably isn't the best thing for me, but it's what we did. So about the only cold drinks we had was we would put 2 cans of Coke and 1 can of beer. I don't drink beer, just Left Buddy drinks beer. And whenever you would pull one out of the fridge, you would put a warm one in its place. So we only had Coke about once or twice a day. We actually tried to, limit ourselves. But it was nice, especially after a long hike and you're all hot and sweaty, being able to pull out that nice cold Coke and pop it open was really a nice treat. Otherwise, during the day, we mainly drank water, room temperature water out of our water bottles. The other option was we keep lemonade mix with us. So that's another thing. And if it's cold out, we have hot cocoa mix so that we can use our electric tea kettle to heat up. And then Left Buddy would have coffee, and so we have a little sugar. And then another thing we didn't have room in the fridge for was milk or cream. So we actually carried this milk powder or powdered milk with us. Now this works great in the coffee. It works great in recipes that call for milk or cream. Although on occasion I'll buy some heavy cream to make like a nice lemon cream pasta or something. So we carry that. So that really worked out well. Now we're hoping in season 3, since we've doubled our fridge capacity and we have a little freezer in there, that we can make ice, although we don't know how long it takes to make ice in there. It's probably not going to be a lot of ice, so it's not like we're going to have ice drinks all day long, but at least occasionally we can use ice cubes, and I'm hoping I can get a container of fresh brewed iced tea in the fridge to keep cold in there. So we'll let you know and keep you posted on how that goes. So while we're on the subject of refrigerators, this is what we would typically have in our refrigerator all the time. So we'd have a large container of vanilla yogurt, a small bottle of mayo. Well, we're Miracle Whip people. Our 2 cans of Coke and our beer, carrots and celery for lunch and snacks, 6 eggs. So in the Dometic fridge that we had, a whole dozen container doesn't fit. So if we can't find a small 6-egg container in the store, we'll buy a dozen, we'll cut the carton in half, and we'll quickly use those 6 eggs that night. or soon. You can actually leave eggs out of the fridge for a while. It shouldn't hurt anything. And then we'd carry an assortment of lunch meat and cheeses for lunches, a pound of unsalted butter. Now, I use unsalted butter to cook with, but we also use this to, spread on bread. You let it soften a little bit. We would like to have, soft butter, either that's mixed with canola oil or something that's easily to spread if you're going to spread it on bread or something. But we didn't have room for both, so our cooking butter won out, but we use it for everything. We'll see if that changes with the larger fridge for season 3. Then the Dove dark chocolate. I mean, you got to set your priorities. We always have to have Dove dark chocolate. This is kind of our little go-to dessert. We'll have just one little piece of chocolate after lunch and dinner, in addition to whatever ice cream shops we can find. A pound of bacon. So we eat a lot less meat when we're on the road because that takes up refrigerator space. But bacon is a great meat to have because it only takes a couple slices to really add a lot of flavor to a dish, whether it's an egg scramble, a pasta sauce. I use it for like fried cabbage. We can use it in salads. So a lot of uses for bacon. So we always have a pound of bacon with us. And then fresh blueberries. This is kind of my preferred breakfast, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then in addition, whatever is on the menu for that week, it'll be additional meats and maybe fruits and vegetables, although most of the fruits and vegetables we try to keep out of the fridge, and we actually carry them in a little net bag hanging off the ceiling. And we found that's the best way to carry them in the van because things bounce around so much. If you prefer your fruits and vegetables not to be all bruised and broken open, we found that hanging them is the best solution. Now, in addition to what we keep in the fridge, there's quite a few other items that we almost always make sure we have on hand that we kind of call our staples. So some of them are just for snacking, like we have tortilla chips and a jar of salsa there somewhere. Here we go. And others are really kind of basic to our cooking. So since I said before I pretty much bake from scratch, I need to make sure I have some basic ingredients that I can combine in different ways and make a variety of meals. And those items include cans of diced tomatoes, cans of tomato sauce. Now this is unseasoned, so because I use it for a variety of things. Cans of black beans, pasta. I actually use quite a bit of canned chicken. This is nice because it's meat and we don't have to refrigerate it. So, I use this in soups. I use it, there's this Thai peanut curry I make with chicken. It's really tasty. I'll use this for chicken salad. Or chicken quesadillas. A lot of uses for that. And then, the basics we have are quick oats, our sugar, flour. Now, if you notice, I have these in plastic containers, and this is something we're going to try for season 3. I didn't do this for seasons 1 and 2, but we're going for a whole 6-month stint away from home, and we're not going to come back. So, which means we have to restock while we're on the road. So, the problem I was trying to solve is, let's say you have this box of instant brown rice and you get low, so you want to buy the next brown rice. Well, now in addition to having a spot in the van for that box of rice, you need a spot for a second box of rice until you finish off the first one. So if you put it in an appropriately sized container, and I actually prefer a more rectangular container than a round one, but I didn't want to go buy anything, so I was using what I had. So you put it in a container that has plenty of room, and if you notice on these, I actually mark the size that'll go in here. So This says quick oats 18 ounces. So I know if I get down pretty low, I can fit another 18 ounces of quick oats in here. So I know what size to get. So generally you want to keep to the smaller sizes in the store. So if you notice, I don't know, that small container of mayo, some of these aren't the smaller one, you know, a small container of apple cider vinegar. You want to keep buying the smaller containers of things because you don't have a lot of space. So in addition to writing what is in the container, label makers are great, and the quantity that'll fit in here. You also want to write down any instructions that might have been on the box that you just threw away. So in this case for rice, you know, I kind of put how, you know, what the ratio is and just a reminder of how to cook it. Whatever works for you, you know, how detailed you need to get there. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, if you notice a lot of these things, if you're familiar with the Kirkland brand, a lot of these things are from Costco. So if you thought you couldn't shop at Costco and live out of a van, you'll know that's not true, because we actually keep a whole case of diced tomatoes, a whole case of tomato sauce, a whole case of chicken stock, a whole, I think these come in six cans of chicken, a whole case of black beans, and we keep that all in the van. So other things, you know, we keep a whole wheat bread with us. What are some other nuts? Nuts are a great source of protein. So cashews, peanuts, don't need refrigeration. Again, the fridge is kind of the biggest concern in our minds. Another source of protein, quinoa. Now, I have quite a few different recipes for quinoa, so it's not just the same thing every time. You can, in fact, we just had this last night at home. Just take steamed broccoli and shredded cheddar cheese and mix it in with the hot quinoa. Lovely dish. You can kind of make it more Italian. Add your can of diced tomatoes along with, what else do I put in there? Peppers, green peppers and onions, saute those up and add some Italian seasonings and you get like an Italian dish. You can make it more like a Greek dish by adding cucumbers and tomatoes and feta cheese with like some fresh basil. Very tasty. Or make a kind of a quinoa tabbouleh with cucumbers and tomatoes and parsley and I think lemon juice. So there's a lot of different recipes you can make with quinoa. And quinoa cooks pretty fast, so that's another plus when you're concerned about how much butane or electricity you're going to consume. Other things with tomatoes and tomato sauce, I'll use a can of tomatoes and a can of tomato sauce to make pasta sauces. Add a sauteed onion and maybe a couple slices of bacon for some more flavor and some Italian seasonings. And that's a pasta sauce. Or I'll make a chili by a can of sauce, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes, add a little bit of chicken stock, and then add a bunch of fresh different peppers and some Mexican spices like cumin and paprika and garlic. So if you notice, I didn't say chili powder because I do carry a pretty full complement of spices with us, but I try to stay away from spice blends because it gives me more versatility to just have the individual spices and I can combine them in different ways to give me the different flavors. What else? So I also carry a complement of oils and vinegars, depending what I'm making there. I mean, chicken stock is great for soups and sauces, and there's a lot of different soups you can make. If your celery is starting to go get old, right? And you got a bunch of celery. Chop it up, boil it in some chicken stock along with onion, and then blend it with the immersion blender and add some feta cheese in there, and you have a great tasting celery soup. I also make egg drop soup with this. So I'll boil up some chicken stock, add some grated carrots, some fresh ginger root, and what else do I put in there? Chop up some green onion, and then mix up some eggs and drizzle it in there. Very tasty. So here's the popcorn, the old-fashioned popcorn that we make. Flour tortillas, I almost always have these. I mean, they're, like I was saying before, you can make pizzas with them. You can make chicken quesadillas, you can make tacos. I use it somewhat like pita bread, and I'll dip it in hummus for lunch or snack. So even if I'm maybe spread it with peanut butter and dried banana chips. I did that on a hike once, and that's real tasty. It's got a nice little crunch to it. So flour tortillas is a great thing to have. Apples keep well, so I usually have apples on them. We like taking them on hikes because they are pretty hearty. So you notice condiments. When I was talking about what's in the refrigerator, I talked about the mayo, but you didn't see any other condiments in there. A lot of condiments you don't actually need to refrigerate, and you can actually keep them outside the refrigerator for long periods of time. Mustard, ketchup, soy sauce. I mean, at home I keep them in the fridge because it'll last longer there, but in the van we stretch those rules quite a bit and keep things outside. During seasons 1 and 2 for salad dressings, I would mainly use oil and vinegar because I didn't need to refrigerate that. Season 3, I'll probably be making some of my homemade salad dressings. There's 2 of them I really like. There's a cilantro lime dressing, which is what this is here. And if you notice, it says, I'll use the same container. An Asian peanut dressing. It's got a little spice to it. Great dressings. So we actually, peanut butter. I mean, like I said before, I normally don't carry one this big, but we're at home now and I don't have a little one on me. So peanut butter is besides being able to make sandwiches with it, I have quite a few recipes that call for peanut butter, from Asian slaw and Thai peanut curry. So quite a few recipes that I like to use peanut butter for. Another source of protein that doesn't need to be refrigerated. I'm trying to think what else. Although the rest of we normally carry pasta. I like whole wheat pasta, so I'll actually stock up on these because I can't find them everywhere. The brand that I like from there's a lot of whole wheat pastas out there. And I mean, I haven't gone around and experimented a lot lately, but the one we kind of settled on is Delalo. And I think it's a really good tasting whole wheat pasta. And we normally get the bow ties. So we can make it with tomato sauce. We can make it with, like I was mentioning before, this lemon cream sauce, which is, just take some butter that we have from our fridge, saute some onion in there, add in some heavy cream and the juice and rind of a lemon. I carry a microplane with me. I love a microplane. So lemon juice, and then maybe add some parsley and some Parmesan cheese. Really good stuff. Or you can make, what do they call, like a aglio e olio, so just butter, garlic, and I usually like to add sauteed onion and broccoli in there. So that's another great pasta dish. So, just be creative. You can combine these things in so many different ways. Even bread isn't just for sandwiches. You can make grilled cheese. You can toast it. I mean, we don't have a toaster with us like we do at home, but you can toast it in the pan with, spread a little butter on it and toast it in the pan. You kind of have a type of Texas toast. Or BLTs, or, I mean, I guess that's a sandwich. But French toast, make French toast, you got your eggs. So there's a lot of different ways you can combine these simple ingredients, which is why I like to carry them. Even, I mean, I don't have an oven with me, so I don't really bake, but I am carrying flour, and there's, season 1 and 2, I didn't carry that much flour. I only carried a little bit because I was mainly using it to either thicken a soup, or you can actually make a cheese sauce. So melt some butter in a pan, add a little bit of flour, that's called a roux, then add some milk to that, and then, which I think is called a bechamel. I'm not really a well-versed cook, but I think those are the right terms. And then just add some grated cheese in there, and you have a cheese sauce. So you can, I'm normally not a big fan of cheese sauce over like tortilla chips or something, but you could do that. But I like to do it like over a baked potato with broccoli, and then put a cheese sauce on top of that. So once you get to learn some of these basic things and combining all these ingredients, I find this much more efficient than carrying, processed stuff that you just kind of heat up or whatever. So that's kind of our staples. So let's get into kind of what some of our meals look like. So this is what a typical breakfast would look like for us. So I actually prefer my vanilla, having a little bit of vanilla yogurt, and I'll add a little bit of granola cereal on top, and then add some fresh blueberries. So that's what I have when I'm at home or on the road. And so I'm willing to sacrifice fridge space for these. And if it's cold out, and this is typically what Left Buddy will eat as well, is instant oatmeal. And all we need to do is add the hot water from our electric tea kettle, and then we can add raisins, or I also like these dried blueberries and cherries, and if you add those when you add the hot water and let it sit for a little bit, then the fruit kind of rehydrates, so that's really nice. And if we're really in a hurry or lazy, we'll have granola bars. Actually, granola bars we have a lot on hand anyway, because we like to take them on hikes along with apples. And half the time Left Buddy doesn't eat breakfast, and so a lot of times he'll just grab a granola bar as well. And what I forgot to mention when I was talking about drinks, so in addition to what we eat, then Left Buddy would have his coffee in the morning, and I would either have lemonade or hot chocolate, or sometimes I'll have tea. We actually carry a variety of teas with us, along with just black tea, and so I'll choose from one of those. Now I'm hoping, since we have a larger fridge, that maybe we can start carrying some fruit juice. That's what I really like to drink in the morning with my breakfast, is a little bit of fruit juice, but we'll see if we have room for it in season 3 or not. Like I said before, we typically only cook our evening meals, so a typical lunch for us is usually variety of lunch meat and cheeses on bread as a sandwich. Actually, Left Buddy likes that more than myself, so I'll usually try to find an alternative. And celery and carrots. So I'm usually heading for the tortillas. So I'll sometimes have hummus with that, or guacamole, or I'll have a salad. We sometimes have chips and salsa. That's actually a common snack for us when we get done with a long hike. Replenish our salts, sit down, break open a bag of tortilla chips, and break open a jar of salsa. And that's so refreshing, along with a nice ice cold Coke. So that's a typical lunch for us. And we have peanut butter. We can mix it up a little bit. But it's usually pretty simple, pretty much a picnic lunch. So our evening meals are pretty much a lot of the same evening meals we would make at home. Some of the main differences we already talked about. We do use a little more instant stuff on the road than we use at home. So like quick oats instead of old-fashioned oats, instant brown rice instead of regular brown rice, and instant coffee instead of regular ground coffee at home. And then, of course, the powdered milk as well. So those are to save a little time. It saves on butane or electricity usage because they're quicker and to cook with. But I mean, a lot of it is just being creative to get around the things that are different between home and in the van. Like I said, we don't have a toaster, but we can still toast in the pan. We don't have a microwave, but we can reheat. We can make popcorn. You just have to, think things through. And for you, it may be different because you have different means of cooking. You may want to do a campfire every night, or you have a charcoal grill you take with you, or a gas grill you take with you, or a smoker, or whatever you happen to travel with. You just need to think through, what do I have to cook with? What do I have room to store? How much refrigerator space do I have? Am I going to be carrying a cooler or a refrigerator? Do I have to go get ice? How often can I do that? Where can I get it from? So you just have to think through those things, and it's a challenge. You have to think about it. It's not automatic because it's something different if you haven't been doing this for a while. And it also depends on your type of travel. Are you basically living for months at a time out of your rig? Then you're going to have to know how to resupply and cook on the road. Whereas if you're going for a week, or maybe even just a week, a weekend or a week, you can actually prepare a lot of stuff at home and just reheat it on the road. Or you're going to have all kinds of different salads and items, or you could freeze some stuff and put it in a cooler, and then it'll thaw while you're on the road and it'll be ready to go by the time you want to eat it. So there's a lot of different creative solutions, and we don't have an oven on the road, so I don't necessarily bake on the road. But there is, we did see another channel from She to Me, actually. They use what's called an Omni stovetop oven, which you can bake in. So maybe we'll give that a try in the future. I don't know. But there are a lot of creative solutions out there for different problems, and depending how you want to travel. And maybe you don't want to cook as much and you want to eat out more. That's great too. It all depends on what your priorities are, and what you like to eat and how you like to cook or not cook. And so we're hoping that this video gave you some ideas and things to think about, and hope you enjoy your travels, and we gave you something helpful and useful to use. So thanks for watching, and if you want more details, in the description below there's a link to our related blog post, and there I actually list out all our staples, and I list out a whole bunch of evening meals that we make, so you can get an idea of kind of the different things that we make. And you can leave your own ideas in the comments if you'd like. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. Ta-ta for now.